Hi everyone, this is Sharon Lorainne Boon, founder and creator of Passage to Yourself. And once again, we have Stacy York with us, and we're going to be discussing creating a deeper connection with your loved ones. Now, if you remember from our previous video, Stacy is a mother, wife, and licensed clinical social worker. She recently started a campaign called Be What's Right as a mission for parents to role model for their children how to overcome emotional difficulties and deal with life in a positive manner. Stacy has worked with hundreds of families as a mental health therapist and has helped her gain the skills to educate, encourage, and support parents and caregivers. Welcome back, Stacy.
Thanks for having me back, Sharon. This is fun. I enjoy doing this, so thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having us. Now, so we're going to be talking about how to connect on a deeper level with our loved ones. I know that you've recently done a lot of research, and of course, with your past history as a therapist and social worker, you have more of a deeper sense than a lot of people do. What are the things that you found that are helpful for people who are wanting to create a deeper bond? What would you suggest or what would you recommend?
Well, great question. I love this question. I love this topic because there are just so many places to go with this. And in a world where we're living in the digital age, I find people often asking, how do we connect with our loved ones? What do we do? Those kind of things. And so I recently had the opportunity to interview several professionals and experts in this area, and I got so much information. And my interviews ranged from single men to single women to parents of multiple children to divorced parents to, just this whole broad spectrum. And, remarkably, amongst all the people that I talked to, there was one common theme. And I was just so blown away by that. A couple really stand out. The first one was that people as adults had the most memories that were positive about connection when they were having fun with their loved ones. So I love that. So I always tell people to have fun, and they kind of blow that off like it's not important. But I always say a family that plays together stays together. So having fun together builds those moments of connection and bonding and relationship. And especially with children, kids don't want to open up when you're sitting across from each other talking. They will open up when you're out fishing in a boat. They'll open up when you're, hiking way up in the mountains and you don't have anybody else to talk to. They'll open up when you're sitting in the front yard playing tackle football. Whatever it is, if they're having fun, they're going to start to open up a little bit. So I love that there was just kind of this thread of having fun. The other thing that really struck me and came out was the power of touch. And people had shared, that they might hold someone's hand when they were hurting, that they might give somebody a hug when they saw somebody, that they remember their parents patting them on the back or rubbing their shoulder or comforting them in a time that was stressful for them. And so the fact that they have memories or they feel that when they're doing it now, says to me that the importance of positive, healthy touch when we're happy to see someone or when we're going through things that are very difficult is just so huge. So, having fun and important, healthy touch to deepen that connection were two of the things that I learned.
Wow, that's great. I know, part of when I talk to people about creating a deeper bond with someone is listening. Listening has always been a huge thing for people because when we're talking, we're not necessarily listening to. We're just talking, and when you're hearing what someone else is saying, that makes a real impact in terms of communicating as well, I find. And also, when you do listen, it also makes the other person feel validated. Sometimes we just need to feel validated. And it's one of the biggest things I've taken away from it. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. The word that came up over and over and over and over, and I think, you and I even talked about this, is presence. That feeling of presence. We know when someone's really listening to us. We know when they're thinking about, I have a wonderful grandma. She is one of my best friends. We named our daughter after her, love her dearly. But when we were growing up, we always crack jokes because grandma would be so busy thinking about her response to what we were saying that she totally missed what we were saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She had so much stuff going on. She was busy cooking and cleaning, and she always had cookies, and we stopped by after school, and she'd say, "How was your day?" And we would just go off for tangents because we're kids, and we're not really sure how much she heard of that, because then her next question was, and did you get any trouble today, or did you have fun with your friends? It was always very consistent. So we always cracked up about that. But her presence was felt in different ways. She would make us a blanket, or she would hold our hand, or when we were really hurting, she would really listen to us. And so when I interviewed a lot of these experts, presence, that word came up over and over and over. And I think that when a person feels like the other person listening is present, then we do feel validated. We feel like they're hearing what we're saying. We feel like they can get it a little bit. And I think we feel valued. It says to me, gosh, you're taking enough time to hear what I'm saying, even if you don't agree with it. Because I always say listening doesn't mean agreeing. Listening just means listening. And then we feel valued, like, gosh, you took the time to listen to me. I appreciate that. Thank you. So I absolutely agree with you. Listening, validation, presence, hugely important. It comes back to, I always think if you're going to get distracted when you're talking to someone, then you should make contact with them physically. Put your hand on their hand. And we kind of put our fingertips together, and we know that and then make eye contact, and we know the other person is talking to us, so that we know that they're present with us, that they're not all distracted, and, so that's, listening, validation, presence, all of that, super important.
Yeah.
Good question.
Now, are there tips, that from everything that you've learned and whatnot, are there tips that we can do, 1, 2, 3, different types of tips that we can use that will help people who want to create a deeper connection do so? What would be the guidelines for that?
Absolutely. You have to aware that you want a deeper connection. So, awareness. Second of all, you've got to make an effort. If this is the first time that you've ever really connected with someone, it's going to take time. So you've got to be committed to the process of it and be willing to put in the effort and the time it's going to take. We don't just trust easily. You can't say one time, hey, I want to have a deeper connection with you. It just doesn't work out. And then you got to choose the modality. Is it going to be face-to-face connection? Some of the people I interviewed live away from the people they love. They live in different cities or different towns or different countries or states or whatever. So they have just made a point to pick up the phone and consistently call the people they want to get in touch with. So they have to make that effort. One of the beauties of technology is you can do Skype. You can do Uvu. You can do all these different options. But it means that you have to take the time to make that connection, to make that happen. And the other thing, especially when you're trying to make a deeper connection with children, I say let them choose the activity. No electronics. I always say that's not a good plan because they'll just choose video games. That's what they do. It's part of the world. But let them choose if they're going to go swimming or go for a bike ride or go for a walk or go outside and have a water fight or whatever, and incorporate some fun with it. I think we spend so much time trying to get through the daily hassle of getting up in the morning and getting to work and eating breakfast and doing laundry and putting things away and, just kind of those repetitive things you got to do. Yes. We spend so much time doing that we lose the connection in that. So the more we can focus on making it fun or doing something that maybe the kids want to do and backing off on some of that repetitive stuff. I was getting ready to do a big launch. You know how it goes. Sometimes you're just so committed to the work. And my daughter wanted to play and my son wanted to play. And I finally just shut my laptop and I said to my husband, 15 years from now, I'm not going to say, gosh, I really wish I would have spent 3 more hours working on that launch instead of playing Legos. You just don't, who's going to choose that? So sometimes, you just have to commit to it. So, identify who it is, become aware, commit to it, and then do it, and then evaluate it. I think that's a huge piece of it. How did it go? Did we really connect on a deeper level while that time was happening? What could have I done differently? Did something happen that triggered my stuff inside that made me crazy? Because sometimes we forget to evaluate what occurred. The other thing that I don't think we spend enough time talking about is what I call the repairing of relationships. And so if we're not connecting with our loved ones on a deep level already, there might be something that's widening that gap. And, pretty soon it becomes that big elephant in the room where really what we might need to do is come back and say, gosh, I haven't been real present lately. I haven't really been available for you. So I'm sorry, and own that stuff. And I really want to repair a relationship, whatever that looks like. Let's go for ice cream and it doesn't have to be go doing things. Sometimes it could just be being together.
So we just lost you a little bit there, Stacy. Can you just repeat the last bit?
So what I said is just the importance of the repairing of relationships. And, that's kind of how we connect with people. If we don't repair a relationship and if the gap gets wider and wider, then people aren't going to want to have a deeper connection with us. And trust is really the first thing for that. So if people don't trust us, then why would they want to spend time with us? And what I say to parents is, if you don't trust your kid, then it's really important to look in the mirror and see if your kid trusts you first. Because a kid has to trust an adult before an adult really gets the privilege of trusting that child. So,
that's huge. That's
it's
huge.
super, it's important to remember that. If we haven't earned the trust of our children, then we need to go back and we need to repair that relationship and build that trust before we can really get into that deeper, meaningful stuff.
Yeah, that's huge. And when you were talking earlier about playing with your daughter and choosing that, I remembered an episode of Dr. Phil, and he was talking about what he did with his sons. Every night he would read a bedtime story. And he said, I remember it clearly that he said that didn't matter what went on in the relationship or whatever, but his sons, when they got older, would remember that. They would remember every night Dad sat down and read to them. And that was huge. To me, that was profound. That
absolutely.
Because I remember, like, growing up, kids weren't seen, they weren't heard. None of that connection was there, wasn't happening, because coming from, like, say, a Victorian type family, you weren't read to. You had to read if you wanted to get good in school. You're the one that was supposed to read, not be read to. But this, just to have that that memory, it brings so much to you as an adult. So it's something that I've always encouraged. Play with your kids. They'll remember that.
Absolutely. Well, and the other thing that we don't talk about is the kind of the structure or the development of play. Play is very developmental, and there are actual steps to play. And so if, first a child must be able to kind of play, kind of go away from a parent and then come back and check in, and go away and come back and check in. And then a child should be able to play with their parent. And that's the first playmate a child really has, is their parent. And if a parent never plays with that child, they don't learn a lot of things. And then a child will go and play kind of next to a peer. And then they might notice a peer. They might start stealing toys from a peer. And then they might interact one-on-one with a peer. And then they're ready for group play. But that crucial piece is that play with a parent. And, developmentally, a lot of kids who have peer struggles are missing some part of that play structure. And so, I always say to parents, create a ritual. Create a playful ritual with your children, whether it's reading a book at night. I have a friend, and she has a special prayer that she has with each of her children. Each child has a different prayer that they pray together every night. At our house, we do snuggles, and I do snuggles differently with both my kids, and then I ask them 3 different questions. What are you going to dream about tonight? What was the best part of your day today? What kind of day do you want to have tomorrow? And so it's just creating a ritual that is a positive ritual that they get that connection from. And I hope to do that with them no matter what age they are, no matter what time of night they come home from their dating or their curfew or whatever, because it's just a ritual that we create and connect with kids.
That's awesome. Now, what you said about your snuggles with your children and say, okay, what kind of day you want to have tomorrow. That's something that I teach and has been taught to me about creating the life that you want. One of the first things that we do is, in terms of like law of attraction and creating the mindset for the next day or for that week, is to visualize what it is that you want to happen the next day and go through your day's events. That way, when you fall asleep, that's already in works, in play.
Absolutely.
And then when you wake up in the morning, you just kind of repeat the process to reinforce that. And it's something that Jack Canfield teaches. Many of the people, the top people in the industry regarding like law of attraction and whatnot, they reinforce this. They said this is ideal. So for you to say that you do that to me is amazing, because you're giving great habits on how to create the life that you want to your children. That's amazing.
Well, it just fits with, focusing on what you did right for the day. Yeah. I truly believe we focus so much on everything that could go wrong. And don't get me wrong, our kids are not perfect by any means, but when they struggle and we talk about it, at the end of the day, I want them to put all that aside, and tomorrow's a new day. We all have those days, and if you can't teach it to them really, really young, it gets more difficult to teach that to them. And I also believe self-esteem is a huge piece of that. If the last thing I said to them in the evening was, gosh, you really had a rough day today, don't do that again, then I'm not really breeding great self-esteem. And as people who have higher self-esteem and know their sense of worth feel better about their life, do better things in their life, don't get tripped up by all the fear that comes in naturally anyway. So, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was great. Now, do you have anything final that you want to say regarding building a deeper connection?
Yeah, it's never too late. It's never too late to build a deeper connection. If it's a relationship that you want to have in your life, it's never too late to find a way to connect deeper. I just think that's important to remember. I think sometimes we feel like we should just throw it out, it's not worth it, it's too hard. But if it's really something that adds value to your life and is something you want, then go for it. What do you have to lose? Don't give up on it. It's definitely worth it. And I always believe that you will 100 times more get back from that relationship than what you give, so I always tell kids, like, there's enough love that you can love a lot of different people. Our families come from divorced families, so our kids have all sorts of grandparents and grandmas and grandpas, and it's hard to keep them all apart. But I say you don't have to choose. Like, there's enough love for all of them. And sometimes we forget that there is enough love for whoever we want to have in our life. We just have to figure out how to make that love meaningful.
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, it was great talking to you again, and thank you for joining us. And if anyone wants to reach out to Stacy, you can do so at her website at www.bewhatsright.com. And is there anything else that you want to add about your website or anything like that?
No, I think that's the biggest thing, thanks. I always put some free resources. There's a blog. Just believe in the power of parenting and caregivers. So come on over, check out our online encouragement group. And thank you, Sharon, for having me. I appreciate that. It was a great discussion today.
Yes, absolutely. I've really enjoyed it. Learned a lot too. So thank you again, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, I'm Sharon Lorainne Boon, founder and creator of Passage to Yourself. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Stacy.
Bye.